How is it going, all of you beautiful people? My name is Ryan, and I'm bringing you guys the second part in this series, how to use a tabletop simulator deck builder and how to build a deck in My Hero Academia collectible card game. Now, if you guys missed the first part where I showed you guys how to set up the universe's game mode in the tabletop simulator, go ahead and click the card in the top right. That'll bring you straight to that video for part 1. But here in part 2, like I mentioned, we're going to be talking about deck building and how to actually use the deck builder here. So one thing I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention in my last video, is at the top left, there's the grid on and grid off button here. It's actually really helpful because when you have the grid on button, your cards will just slide into place once you put them in. It's just really nice, keeps it super organized. So that is something that I do recommend that you turn on. It is not on by default. Okay. So we talked about how we have our character cards, our attacks, our foundations, our assets, and our actions. Now, how do we go about deck building in this game? So I already showed you guys how we go about searching so we can find specific cards. So in this video, I'm going to build a deck really quick just to show you guys exactly what we are working with, what we have going on. Now, in terms of the character that I'm going to pick, let's go ahead and pick Shoji. We're going to pick Mezzo Shoji. So let's say we want to build a deck around him, right? So my first plan of action whenever I try to deck build in this game, and keep in mind, of course, I'm not the best deck builder. I'm not the best player at all. I'm a beginner player, but I'm just giving you guys what I've learned and from what I've talked to from players that have played this game a lot longer than I have. Some of the advice that they gave me is when you pick your character, your hero, your villain, whoever, you want to figure out what symbol you're going to play on him, right? So every character has 3 symbols and each symbol has its own resources. Now, obviously, the more you play the game, the more you'll know about the symbols. But for me, for Mezzo Shoji, I'm going to go ahead and pick the life symbol, his 3rd symbol. And I'll talk about the reason why I ended up choosing that. But of course, the beauty of this game is that no deck should look the same, right? Everybody will be able to figure out their own ratios. I might be able to play Mezzo Shoji on life, but then some people might want to play him on evil, his 2nd symbol, right? So those 2 decks would look significantly differently because both sides would have access to different cards, right? So with that being said, like I said, we want to focus on life. So after I know what symbol I want to play with, and also I would say that's probably 1A and 1B. So that would probably be 1B. 1A would probably be to read the card, right? Read the card, look at the hand size. So then that way, you know, you have an idea of how you want to play the deck. So Mezzo Shoji has pretty good life. He has 29 life with a hand size of 6. So it's not 5 and it's not 7. So we know he's not going to be overly aggressive. We know he's not going to be overly defensive. But of course, you can build a deck in any way that you choose, you see fit in this game, which is the beauty of it. So Shoji has 2 effects. You can commit 1 card, you can commit him, and your attack gets +2 damage, and your next attack gets +2 damage. But on top of that, you can his form. So once per turn, you can add one of your attacks or your foundations from your discard pile to your hand. You lose a health equal to its printed difficulty. So obviously, since we want to take cards from our discard pool from our discard pool to our hand, and we're going to take damage due to the printed difficulty, we don't want to take anything that's too heavy, that's too serious. So we ideally want to pick up foundations that are going to be of 0 difficulty or a 1 difficulty. That is ideal, right? Because taking 0 damage is perfect. Taking 1 damage isn't so bad, right? But if you're picking up an attack and you're taking 5 damage, 4 damage, that can potentially lead to your opponent having an easier lethal, especially if they're playing something like Nomu or Shigaraki. Ideally, you'd want to save that type of play when you're trying to go for the juggler, when you're trying to go for the game. But up until then, you're probably going to want to pick up those lower cost foundations so you can go ahead and play them back in their card pool, go ahead and use their effects, and do whatever you really want with them. So that's my idea. And because of that, that's why I decided to go with life, because life has a ton of foundations that are spammable, that are 0 and 1, that we can use to take advantage of his first effect. Now, of course, like I said, you can use his 1st symbol, all, or evil, his 2nd symbol, and evil actually has some pretty cool cards as well. But like I said, for the sake of this video, I'm going to go with life. Now, I want to talk about a very, very important research. I do this all in one take, you feel me? I want to talk about a very, very important resource that you guys can use for your deck building, and that is UVS Ultra. Now, what is that? Let's go ahead and hop over to my my desktop screen over here, and let's go ahead and show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. So what you see on the screen here is UVS Ultra. It's a great card database resource, and I highly recommend that everybody use it when they're going for deck building. You can also take a look at stats. You can take a look at some various top decks. You can see how other people are building your character, building the characters that you want to play, and maybe grab some inspiration from that. But with that being said, let's go ahead and go over to UVS Ultra. It's very, very simple to use, simple as clicking buttons. So the format, we're going to go ahead and select the My Hero Academia format. And because of that, we're also going to go ahead and click the My Hero Academia set. That way we're only going to see My Hero Academia cards. Now, what I like to do, remember, we already talked about how here, let's just open that up. We talked about how Shoji has access to the all symbol, the evil symbol, or the life symbol. So what I like to do is go ahead and choose life here. Let's go ahead and choose evil. Let's go ahead and choose all. Now you can choose match all selected resources and click search, and you'll see if any cards match. Now, we haven't had any Shoji exclusive cards, so we're not going to be able to find anything with those specific symbols. So because of that, we're going to have to choose one symbol that we want to build around. Now, if you go ahead and uncheck match all selected resources, you'll be able to see all the cards that fall under those symbols. Now, what I like to do is take a look at the foundations first. Obviously, you could take a look at the attacks, but I like to take a look at the foundations first. We don't want to take a look at the character types. If you don't select anything here under type, it'll just show you all of them by default. So as you can see here, we're able to see all symbols. We're able to see life. We're able to see evil, right? So we have access to all those things. And then based off that, you can kind of decide how you want to build your deck. Do you really want to play apathetics? Maybe you want to interrupt your opponent. You want to play apathetic. You want to go evil, right? Maybe you want some more spammable foundations. Like I said, there's a ton of spammable foundations. Like Amphibious, that is a life symbol. Maybe you want to go for that. And then for all, who knows? Maybe you want to play weapons. Maybe you want to take advantage of Momo's cards. You can go ahead and play that because she's also on that symbol. So honestly, it just comes down to what you want to play, how you want to play it. Honestly, like that's literally all it is. And again, that is the beauty of this game, the fact that everybody can just build their character how they want. One thing that I really like that has pretty cool synergy here, if you do decide to go evil, is Stronger in Darkness, because if your character is committed, you get +1 damage. And then of course, if you take a look at Mezzo Shoji, his enhance, you commit this card, it gets +2 damage. Next attack gets +2 damage, so you get to get +3 damage. So it's pretty nutty if you do decide to go evil. But again, we're gonna go for life. So because we're gonna go for life, I am going to go ahead and unselect evil and all, search again, and now everything is updated. So now you can go ahead and do other things. Like if you want to make it so it's a lot stricter of a search, over here on the right hand side you could see difficulty. Now remember how I told you I wanted to see cards that are spammable foundations? So I want to go ahead and see cards that are going to be less than 2 difficulty, and this is going to show me all of the spammable foundations that I have access to. So now if we take a look at the cards, we see cards like Bonds of Friendship, where this Fury attack gets -3 damage, and it's a high block of 1. This is really good, especially if you're going against aggressive decks, if you're going against like Shigaraki or Bakugo or things like that. Bonds of Friendship can really come clutch, right? So you can put that in. Recovery Girl's Kiss is a card where you can gain 1 health, which is pretty damn good, and it's a 0. So there's a ton of cards that you can pick, a ton of cards that you can choose. In terms of how you want to build your deck, obviously you have access to Tight Lip, which is always a really good card, Observant Student. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to go ahead and slot in some of the foundations that I'm going to use for my build, because like I said, I had an idea. I wanted to get spammable foundations. I know Life gives me access to spammable foundations. They have pretty good block modifiers. So I'm going to go ahead and get my spammable foundations in my deck first. So real quick, not sure if I went over this in my last video, I'm pretty sure I didn't. You can go ahead and search cards. That's a fast way that you can find them. So take a look here. Let's say we want to throw Bonds of Friendship into our deck real quick. You can go ahead and start to search it and it will appear. And then once you drag it over, you can go ahead and put it right beside your character, so you know that's where you want to build your foundations. And then when you want to add more copies, because it's only going to cover one of them, you just use Control-C for copy and then Control-V for paste. And as you can see, when I hover over it, it says 2, paste again, it says 3, paste again, it says 4. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with my foundation lineup for my spammable foundations and show you what I cooked up. Okay, so here are a ton of spammable foundations. Now I have 21 spammable foundations. Now I'm not actually going to be using all 21 of these. These are just the cards that I am considering in this build, and I can go ahead and delete them as I go along. Ideally, I would say that you want to have a decent amount of spammable foundations based on the type of deck you're playing, and the reason for that is because you want to make sure that your deck is not too cloggy and you're able to have a good build on your first turn, or potentially be able to play defensively quite easily. Because remember, if your hand is full of 3 diffs and 2 diffs and you're going first, or it's your first turn rather, and you're only able to build 2 foundations on your first turn, 3 foundations isn't bad, but ideally you kind of want to build 4. That's the kind of sweet spot that I found, and that people that have been talking to have been telling me. Unfortunately, if you hit your difficulties wrong and you can only play 2 foundations, kind of sucks, because now your opponent's going to be able to pop off on you. You're only going to have 2 foundations and you kind of lose momentum of the match. So that's why spammable foundations are really good. But then again, of course, I wanted to get foundations that I'd be able to get value of, where if they do get destroyed, I can go ahead, or if I do discard them due to control checking and things like that, I can go ahead and pull it out of my discard pile with Mezo Shoji and not take that big of an impact. So this is what I have so far. So now the rest of my foundations are going to be 2 and 3 diff foundations, and that's going to be your core foundations, the ones that are ideally going to push you over the edge. So now I'm going to take a quick look and see what 2 and 3 foundations I have access to in life. Now, one card that I really like in life is Planning Ahead. You can name an attack zone, and if your rival's next attack this turn matches that zone, you can go ahead and make it -5 damage, which is pretty good, especially if you combo it with things like Infinite Potential, where you can change their attack to a high. So you're able to go ahead and use Planning Ahead, so your next attack, and then you call high, and then once they use their next attack, if they decide to go for their next attack, you can go ahead and use Infinite Potential, change it to a high if it's a mid or low. That way it's easier for you to block, or if you just want to face tank it, you're able to take less damage. Another card that I really like is Someone with Style, and the reason for this is not only is he a good extender, but he allows you to destroy 1 foundation in order to extend. Now, destroying foundations, why is that a good thing? Well, imagine now you're destroying your spammable foundations that you've already used. Let's say you use Recovery Girl's Kiss, it's flipped over. Let's say you use Bonds of Friendship, it's flipped over. Let's say you use Tight Lip, it's flipped over, or Foundation is flipped over, right? They don't really have much use. So now you can go ahead and use Someone with Style, go ahead and pop that, destroy that foundation, so you can go ahead and ready Someone with Style, be able to have another resource on your end that way. And then of course you can go ahead and use Mezo Shoji's effect and pull that foundation that you just popped back into your hand, being able to play it again and potentially reap the benefits of its effects once again. Now, obviously, if I wanted to go the all symbol, of course, things like Start with the Basics or Rising Starlit would be cards I want to put in, because not only is it life, but it is on the all symbol. But I'm not planning on using weapons in this build, so I'm just going to go ahead and put that on the side for now. All right, so let's see what we are working with so far. So right now we got a total of 29 foundations. So you know what? This is actually not too bad. We'll see if we want to go ahead and drop off some of our other foundations after. Maybe we might not. But I went ahead and added 2 Planning Ahead, 4 Someone with Style, and 2 Wall Cling. Didn't want to have too many Wall Clings. I was thinking of maybe putting 3. Maybe I will end up putting 3 at the end of this build, but ideally the reason why I wanted Wall Cling was because we wanted to play defensively, but the control check is only a 4, which kind of sucks. So we don't want to accidentally control check it too often. Someone with Style is a card that we want to see, that we can definitely take value of. And then Planning Ahead really only has really good synergy with Infinite Potential, but we do have a decent amount of high blocks in this deck. Cards like Someone with Style, Planning Ahead. Obviously, you can block with our own Infinite Potential. We have Bonds of Friendship. So, we'll still be able to get value off of that when we do use Infinite Potential to change the zone. But Planning Ahead, obviously, it's kind of just a guessing game. It's kind of just trying to mind game your opponent, or if you know what they have in their hand, you could go ahead and use that. But because this really only has guaranteed synergy with this card, I don't want to see it that much, but I do kind of want to see it, right? It'll be nice if I see it, but if I don't, it's fine. It's not game defining. That's my mindset. So now I'm looking over the attacks in life. Now, for life, you have many options, right? You have access to the Uraraka cards. You have access to a bunch of attacks. You have access to Suyu attacks, Aoyama attacks. You have access to Midoriya attacks. all those type of things. So if you want to go punches, maybe you want to go Midoriya. Like I said, if you were building all, maybe, or even if you were building life and maybe you wanted to go weapons, you can go ahead and use Momo's cards. Obviously, if you want to focus on momentum and things like that, you can go ahead and use Uraraka's cards. So it just kind of comes down to how you want to build her. So I'm going to kind of figure out what I want to do. I said build her, build him. I'm going to figure out how I want to build Shoji, and then I'm going to talk to you guys about the cards that I picked. Okay, so first and foremost, I decided to go with 18 attacks. Now, Shoji does have a hand size of 6 with a vitality of 29, health pool of 29, so I don't want to play too fast, but I do want to be able to kill my opponent in a reasonable manner, right? Like, we're not playing something that's going to be extremely slow, so I decided to go for 18 attacks. Now, in terms of how many attacks that you should play, it does come down to what type of playstyle you want, what type of character you're playing, right? If you're playing like Asui, you're playing like Nomu, cards like that, you're going to want a lot of attacks because you're going to be playing super aggressive. Like, even like Tokoyami, you're playing cards, you're playing attacks after attacks, probably on your second, third turn, trying to look for kills. So you want to see attacks on those turns. So you might see some people playing 19, 20, 21, 22 attacks. Like, it just comes down to your build. It comes down to your playstyle. Some people might play more than that. Now, is that optimal? I don't know. But it comes down to that. Now, if you're more on the reserve side, if you're playing a little bit slower, I've seen some people running 16 to 17 attacks. So again, you're not going to just build a deck and just be able to pop off and everything's going to be amazing as soon as you build it. Like, who knows? Maybe you might actually be able to, but don't go into it with that mindset. Go into it with a growth mindset. Go into it with a learning mindset and just play games. Just play games and you'll be able to see if what you're doing is working. If you realize that you're not getting enough attacks in certain moments after you do a couple games of playtesting, go ahead and add some more attacks to your card pool. If you're hitting cards like Wall Cling too often and you're playing 4 copies and it's messing up your control checks, go ahead and drop those copies. That's what you have to do in order to figure out what works best for your character. So those are just some of the guidelines. So in terms of the attacks that I decided to go with for life, I decided to play a little bit of the Aoyama package because we do flip foundations, and I really wanted to play Naval Laser Beam, which allows us to go ahead and remove one of our momentum to unflip 2 of our foundations, so we can go ahead and use that. It is a 5 difficulty, so if we do want to pull it from our discard pile, then we do have to take 5 damage, which is pretty big. But I feel like this can actually save us, especially in the late game. We're taking 5 damage as long as it won't kill us, could potentially screw up our opponent, and then come on our turn, we might be able to kill them because Naval Laser Beam has a breaker of 2. So because of that, we can go ahead and discard Naval Laser Beam, use Naval Laser Beam as a block. It'll go to our discard pile, and then if we want to pull it back up on our turn as an attack, we can go ahead and use Shoji's form, pull it up as an attack, and then use it, right? So I think that is pretty cool. So because of that, I wanted to play a little bit of the Aoyama package. So I went ahead and got 2 Shining Naval Blasts, 5/5. I thought that this is really good. Again, it fits our whole idea of flipping foundations, but then also it's a little bit of momentum heat, right? It's a little bit of stunning our opponent a little bit, not the actual stun keyword, but I mean in terms of getting rid of their momentum. Instant Shining Flash kind of does that as well, and it allows the next card that we play to have -1 difficulty. Also has a low block of 1, so that's the Aoyama package. Then I decided to play a little bit of the Suyu package, which allowed us to have access to Tongue Smack. If your character is committed, it gets +2 damage. Obviously, Mezu Shoji, we can commit him. Attack gets +2 damage. Obvious synergy there. Tongue Smack gets +2 damage there. +4 damage. We have a 4 high for 8 damage. Not too bad, right? Obviously, 4 high is not too difficult to block. Obviously, if they have cards that are like a 1 block, things like that. But ideally, you want to put them in a situation where they are using their resources. Then ultimately, you can go for the jugular, right? Then also on top of that as well, 20-meter Tongue Strike was a card I threw in there just because I felt like, again, if your character is committed, commit 1 rival foundation. Ideally, our Shoji is going to be committed because we want to pump stuff up, giving this 8 attack mid, commit 1 of your opponent's foundations. It's not it's not exactly an absolute kill card, but it's a card that does a lot of damage. Now, I don't have any real kill attacks per se, and that was my only little gripe that I was trying to figure out. Maybe I want to change around as I play with the deck, and by that I mean cards that we can expend momentum, or we could just dunk them, do a crap ton of damage, pump it up with our Shoji to give us an extra 2 damage, and just allow us to go for the jugular when we have those opportunities. I mean, naval laser beam's not that bad. We do have access to that. We have access to shining naval blast. We have access to 20-meter tongue strike. So we're able to do some stuff, but again, I was thinking maybe if I do want a little bit bigger dunks, I was trying to think of some other cards. But again, that's why we do the testing. So this puts us at 47 cards. Now, I can go ahead and add some extra cards. I was actually thinking of maybe running more self-sacrifice. So that way we can go ahead and destroy one foundation to keep that cycle going where we can pull up cards for Mezzo Shoji and things like that. So maybe I'll add another card there. So this deck isn't fully complete. It is missing 3 cards. Let's just go ahead and do that here. So let's add one more self-sacrifice to the deck, right? Then what we will do is just taking a look at the list here. Oh, this is actually not going on top because I had the window open. Okay, so what other cards do I want to add? So we can add 2 more cards here. Probably Tight-Lipped because it's a mid-block. Can I just paste it in here? Oh, I can't. So I do want another copy of Tight Lip. And then a Precious Lesson actually isn't that bad either. But it is on a 4, which kind of sucks. You know what? Maybe I would actually drop a Precious Lesson. So let's go ahead and delete that. That opens up other things. So now maybe we want to go ahead and add another Recovery Girl's Kiss because that is a 0. So we'll go ahead and add that. And then we can also go ahead and add, we already have the Tight Lips here that we're going to add in. Just for the sake of this video, just for fun, let's go ahead and add another Infinite Potential. Right? So let's close that up. Boom. 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 Got 32 cards, 18 attacks. Boom. We have a 50 card deck with Shoji here. Now what I like to do is I like to go ahead and put the character card on top of the deck. I'm going to go ahead and drag my cursor and highlight it, right click, and then save object. And this is how you're going to save your deck so you can actually use it. So you're going to go ahead and go to root folder, and then in your root folder you'll be able to create other folders. I go ahead and click characters, save, and what this is going to do is it is going to allow you to go ahead when you are playing games to pull up your deck. So I'll show you real quick before I end this video. So let's say we load into the game. We're going to go to objects, saved objects, go to characters, and we're going to go ahead and bring out Shoji. Then we can go ahead and drag him here, drag the deck there, and now we're good to go. We're going to press R to shuffle our deck, and we're able to play the game. So there you go, guys. That is how I deck build in My Hero Academia CCG. Obviously, I am going to be updating this Shoji deck and doing a proper Shoji deck profile. Maybe I might not even play him as life. I just did it for the sake of this video. But with that being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope this helped. And stay tuned for my next video where I show you guys how to actually do everything, all the shortcuts in terms of how to play the game here on Tabletop Simulator. And I will finally be launching my Discord so all of us will be able to play together and find some matches relatively easily. So with that being said, hope you guys all have an amazing day. Sorry for the long video, but I really wanted to make sure I got the information right and make sure I got the information out there. With that being said, have a good night, or have a good day, or have a good afternoon, wherever you are. I'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.